Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing about animal husbandry. Why I directly introduce this topic you see is it's very interesting and there are a lot amount of things we learned from animals that we replicated into machines. So that is why without any mystery or without any riddles, I directly introduce the topic to everyone. So, let us understand what animal husbandry is. It's basically a branch of agriculture that deals with livestock management, animal livestock management. That is how well we are breeding and rearing the animals, and we are extracting out the animal products and selling it in our markets, making profit out of it. To basically, these are the cycle which we follow. This whole together we call it as animal husbandry. What animals we can rear in? Cows, buffaloes. In terms of birds, if we say chicken, ducks, so many things, and we can even do fish farming as well. Different types of fish like cutla fish, so many pomfret. These all we can rear in. So this basically we will be studying today. So dairy farm management, milk drinking population is kind of vast if you compare to whole world. It's more uh, agriculturally inclined countries are we can say are India and China. But when we see overall contribution for in terms of agriculture, it's just 25%. So when you see the overall outlook of it, it's very low. So what can be done to increase that input? That measures can be done with the help of technology, with the help of manpower, with the help of different new ideas. So that we will be discussing today. For cattle population in India, what what different measures can be done for maintaining a dairy farm? What are the prerequisites which are needed? First thing, healthy animals. That is very important. Healthy cows to get healthy milk. Second thing, we have to make sure the fodder are of best quality. Next is we have to make sure that animals are in better shape, that is their health wise they are very healthy. So there should be a monthly visit of veterinary doctors every now and then. And then we should see whether they are getting infected with any of the animal diseases that is around. There are so many diseases that animals get across. So that should be monitored very well. And once the milk is being extracted, once we get milk from cows, we need to make sure that there is no packaging issues that one face while delivering it to customers. The packaging issues might be reduced because of increased technology. Most of the packaging and delivering stuff is handled by the machines current times, as one can observe very clearly. Not even milking process is done manually these days. So it is untouched milk, we can say, there, which is getting delivered in door to door in current times. So these are some of the prerequisites or paramount principles which one should follow if they are managing a dairy farm. Next, poultry farm. Somewhat similar principles are followed. Obviously, we should make sure the birds are in good health, and whatever yield which we are getting, we have to check through that whether the yield is getting proper or not, and we have to check for the diseases in the birds. If there is any disease, we should always take a second consultation from a veterinary doctor. So there was a very dangerous conversation or very dangerous information that was running across, that is bird flu. Bird flu is a disease that causes high discomfort in humans. Such you can see the symptoms here very clearly. One can guess fatigue, fever, conjunctivitis, sore throat, cough, and aching in muscles. So when we kept it untreated, it could also lead to secondary level problems such as respiratory distress, and one can kidneys can fail, and it can eventually lead to death. So, what are the which type of a virus basically causes this? That is H5N1 virus, most virulent bird flu virus. Virulent means what? Virulent means the virus can cause a lot amount of problem when it comes into body of host. Humans infected. Basically, bird flu doesn't get infected to humans directly, but sometimes it happens that this strain of virus can infect humans. Human infected by close contact with live infected poultry. When people are handling poultry, when the people are directly in contact with poultry farm, and if the bird is infected with H5N1 virus, there is a high possibility that the individual might come in contact with H5N1 virus. And this strain of virus is very virulent, that is, it is very dangerous when it comes in contact with humans. Otherwise, there are other strains of bird flu as well, which never causes direct bird to person transmission. But once this virus travels inside the body of host, this can, get spread from person to person, from person A to person B. Easy infections can happen easily. Birds carry virus and excrete it in feces, which dries, becomes pulverized, and then can be inhaled or taken by touch. See, here the mode of infection is discussed, how exactly the virus gets inside the body of host. It could get through the feces of the birds, and it could get through when the air is being inhaled, which has a strain of virus. Humans have no immunity against this virus. As one can observe, this is not something which is there in our body. So the immunity which is built is not very strong. So human might get infected with bird flu very easily, and it's a severe host. We get severe problems, we get severe symptoms, as one can observe. If the symptoms remain, if we ignore the symptoms, it could lead to a secondary major problems. Animal breeding. See, animal breeding, why we do is to get the superior quality products, to put it very simply. So, to get the superior quality products, the superior genes should get transferred from generation to generation. That is the expectation which we keep. So, animal breeding is practiced. Inbreeding we practice is some type of animal breeding in which closely related species, in a very close relation, they are allowed to breed. See, this could, select the best of the genes from the particular organism and can transfer it to next generation. But this method has some repercussions. When you see Mendel's theory, Mendel's selection of genes theory, you can clearly understand that when there is a inbreeding takes place. Breeding, that is breeding between two closely related species. If we take the example of doe with twin kids, these are twins, one is male and one is female, for example. For example, if we keep black one as male and fair one as female. So in this case, we want the best genes to get transferred to next generation. So we allow the breeding between the siblings. Yes, you heard it correct. Breeding between the siblings. And this practice, when it is done, the offsprings which are developed might have the best of the best genes, but health wise, it will become more and more weaker. And if we keep on continuing this practice, it will lead to inbreeding depression. That means the genes will get exposed, the best genes will get exposed, and there won't be much of variations in that gene. Okay. If there is not much variation in that gene and the same gene is getting repeated and repeated, it might lead to inbreeding depression. That could cause a lot amount of problems in offspring which are born from practice of inbreeding. Okay. Now, outcrossing or outbreeding. See, Outcrossing is something that a crossover takes place between two different species which does not have similar ancestor for 4 to 6 generations. Some of the examples which we can take is of cross between a poodle and a Labrador. Cross between a Labrador and a poodle gave rise to Labradoodles. Okay, this is kind of tongue twister here. So this outbreeding can, prevent that inbreeding depression. If you're practicing inbreeding, just go in between outbreeding. That will, increase the gene pool basically, and that will, prevent inbreeding depression. Now, next. Crossbreeding. See, crossbreeding is the breeding between totally different species, two totally different species. So interspecific hybridization can be observed here. That is horse. If you take the example between a cross between a horse and a donkey, that will lead to formation of mule. Crossbreeding to produce mule with superior characteristics. See, two different species we are crossing here, and we are getting to get the best of the best genes from that generation to the next generation. And the organism that is found is that is a combination of both the characteristics, that is of horse and a donkey. So this mule has the characteristics of horse, best characteristics of horse, best characteristics of donkey. So this can be used for different purposes, and it could be more useful for further business endeavors. Next, artificial insemination. See, this crossbreeding which I talked about right now, it's not very easy. Naturally, the possibilities are very low, so we try to go with different artificial methods through which we can generate certain species of mule or certain crossbred species. So artificial insemination is we use catheter to insert the desired, desired um, see, first we try to superovulate the ovaries of female, and then we try to inseminate via catheter. So insemination is done artificially, and the possibilities are very rare in this case. If we superovulated, there might be a chance, but if you go for natural insemination, the possibilities are very low. Next, multiple ovulation embryo transfer technology. This is one of the another technology which we use. That is basically we superovulate the female. Superovulation means during normal ovulation, only one egg is generated per cycle. If you superovulate, 4 to 8 eggs are generated in one cycle. So the chances of getting, offspring is much more as compared to normal ovulation. So artificial insemination is done by using catheter. This is the device which we use. And then after 5 days after initiating superovulation, monosurgical recovery of embryo to 6 to 8 days after insemination. Insemination After insemination we wait. Then fully catheter for recovery of embryo. See, whenever we put any instrument, it causes certain pain. So that should be, compensated. Isolation and classification of embryos. When the egg and sperm are fused, we take it out and we isolate it, and we see whether the division happened in the cells or not, whether the classification of embryo is happening or not under the microscope. Storage of embryos. Now, once we see there is certain division of cells, we try to store it in under liquid nitrogen. Basically, liquid nitrogen goes down to 37 degrees Celsius. It is very chilled liquid nitrogen, and we can use it to store the embryo. And it is used exclusively for this such purposes, for preservation purposes. Surgically or non-surgically, we transfer this embryo into the um, uh, pregnancy diagnosis by See, what happens is this embryo which we have stored, we try to put it in surrogate mother mostly. Surrogate mother, we try to plant this embryo into the uterus. Okay, and then once the 9 months is done, the surrogate mother will give birth to the baby. So this is how we can, perform multiple ovulation embryo transfer technology. It's very tedious process. The chances of chances of getting the offspring is very risky here, but still such practices are done to get the desired genes for our benefit. Next is beekeeping. Beekeeping is very economically sound procedure, we can say. It is a very profitable industry currently, as one can synonymously put honey to health these days. And getting a pure honey is a challenge in current times, as many brands are typically failing in testing. So whenever one come across a natural honey, the love towards honey is visibly seen in one's eyes. So now we can see how beekeeping is done and what are the different types of bee. For every hive, there is one queen bee, there is a drone who is a male, and there are workers who are smallest of the castes, and there are numerous workers to, carry out different functions in a hive. There is one queen bee for every hive. So this is the structure of how the how the bee survive in a hive. So let us understand how beekeeping is done. It's not very tedious job as such. It's very simple, not in as such very simple, but one can maintain bees in small verandas as well. Now you can see what one should understand before starting beekeeping. First, they have to understand what bees are and how honey can be extracted. Connect with local beekeepers. How many beekeeping communities should be there? From that, try to get as much as knowledge as possible. Explore the beehive options. There are several beehive options one can explore. Learn beekeeping tasks. See, there should be certain protocols which should be followed for keeping bees, and make sure they doesn't sting you back. And order honeybees. First honeybees should be there to start your bee farming. It's also called as apiculture. See, there are lot amount of benefits of running a apiculture farm. That is pollen foraging. Wherever there is honeybees, the pollen transfer happens naturally. Pollens get stick into the back and the arms of the bees, and that transfer happens naturally. One can harvest honey out of it. Obviously, they collect the nectar and they convert it into, yeah, tasty and yummy honey which we harvest from them. Beekeeping, you can just follow certain protocols. There are several NGOs as well who teaches how to keep honeybees, how to maintain apiculture farming. And once the honey is extracted, you can just bottle it and sell it under the name of your brand. And it's very economical as such. As I mentioned earlier, getting a pure honey is a pure challenge in current times. There is a lot amount of sugar syrup mixing that is happening. So if one is interested, they can always go for such natural and such hardworking professions such as apiculture. Fisheries. See, one more field which is very important for survival for many of the population who are of coastal sides of farm fishing, we can say fish farming. I'm sorry. So there are several fish farming practices one can go for. That you can see there is one image of Musgown dock where several tons of fishes are you know sold in a very wholesale market as such, in a very discounted rate. When you visit there, you can get The pisciculture and aquaculture. See the difference between pisciculture and aquaculture first we should understand, then we can go in detail. What pisciculture means? Pisciculture refers to the breeding and rearing of fish. Only fish breeding and rearing is highly focused in this. What is aquaculture? Aquaculture refers to breeding and rearing of aquatic animals, aquatic plants, and sea vegetables. See, we are not only focusing on fish here, we are also focusing on other aspects which are necessary for breeding fish. Here only breeds fish. Here not only fish but other organisms, aquatic organisms, prawns, oyster, mollusks, etc. So many things that we are taking care of. Produces commercially valuable flora and fauna. Produces fish as a source of food. See, aquaculture we can only concentrate to fish as a source of food, but here we can also produce different flora and fauna which are very much economical as such. Let us see what it is. You can see pisciculture farming. You can observe pisciculture farm here. As I mentioned earlier, it's very economical. And aquaculture, you can see it's basically for food, if you put it very simply. That is small 100 grams well water UV disinfectant. We make sure that the fishes are of top notch. We feed them properly. We make sure the tank which they are in it's very neat and clean, and the qualities of fishes are of top notch. And this salmon is directly sold to market. Temperature regulation, everything is taken care of. So this is the difference between an aquaculture and a pisciculture. Similarly, how green revolution took place, blue revolution is as well taking place in field of fishery farming. So one can observe it, one can practice it, one can take benefit out of it. These are my references. I used textbook of 9th standard and CRT, and some of the images, most of the images I have taken from internet which are used for exclusively educational purposes. I hope the owners please ignore it. Thank you so much for listening. This is your host Miss Pillai signing off. Take care.